Two, two, two. Check, check, check.
How's it going? They're on and ready for you guys.
All right, thanks.
Side of this wall.
Okay, thank you much. Is someone video?
Okay.
Do I have to do anything? I don't need to do anything for long. All right. Can you guys hear me all right? All right. We're going to switch to the other mics here in a minute. So, um, but first of all, thank you guys. Um, I'm going to I'm going to introduce Mr. Terrell Davis to you here in some words, and we're going to show a quick video. Then he and I are going to go over here and do some Q&A. All right. When we're done, hopefully there'll be some time at the end for you guys to ask questions. We don't have a mic for the audience, so just yell them and I'll repeat them. And according to Mr. Davis, pretty much everything's fair game. Um, and maybe right. You can't you can't you can't shout "Go Steelers" or anything in the room, but it's um, so it is a pleasure to introduce Mr. Terrell Davis, who's here to discuss his personal experience with migraine disease, its effect on his life, including his incredible football career. Uh, for any of you who would possibly not know, Mr. Davis was drafted by the Denver Broncos in the 6th round in 1995. He played with them from 1995 to 2001. He remains the Broncos' all-time leading rusher. He was selected to the Pro Bowl in 1996, 97, and 98. He was named MVP of Super Bowl 32 and Offensive Player of the Year. And in 2017, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His greatest accomplishment, however, is his 3 children, which he'll be happy to tell us about. Through all of this success, Mr. Davis experienced migraine attacks including during the Super Bowl. So I'm excited to introduce to you Mr. Terrell Davis. I'm going to try to make this AV stuff work. Um, just a little introductory video, and hopefully the sound works. All right. Mr. Davis?
Mika, hello, mic check. You could have turned the volume up a little bit on that thing because I was wanting to dance a little bit. So what's up? What's going on in this room? Who do I have in here? Do I have like any football players in here? No? So the team is not here today? They had practice? They don't want to come and see me?
It's a rebuilding year. I think they're practicing.
A rebuilding year. My first time here to Morgantown. So last night I came in about midnight and didn't get a chance to see much of it, but this morning I got a chance to drive around and see it. It's a beautiful campus, by the way. What's the team here? What's the professional team here? Is it Steelers? Where are the Steeler fans at? What about the Bengal fans around here? We got one? One fan in the house? We have two. What about the Cleveland Browns? Is it your year this year? You know it? A better year. So are you calling for a Super Bowl championship? No, not there yet? Okay. But it's fun being here. Thank you guys. And we're going to talk a little bit about migraine headaches. And I've experienced having migraine since I was 9 years old. And it's been a challenge for me since that time to really where I am in my life. And it's been crazy, to be honest with you. Growing up as a child, having to deal with migraines it was a struggle. It was a struggle to try to figure it out. I guess when I got my first migraine, I had no clue as to what was happening with me. But we'll get to that.
I was going to ask you, can you tell us about your experience with migraine? What
Yeah.
symptoms do you get? How does it hit you? How long does it last? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'll tell you my first episode. I was at practice. I was 9 years old. We had just finished up practice. It was about 8 o'clock at night. I'm from San Diego. And as I was leaving the field, the lights were on. And as you go toward the parking lot, it was dark in the parking lot. And after practice, I would go and wait for my mom to pick me up. And I would just sit against the fence, and all the kids their families would come and pick them up and take them home, or they had parents there. And this day, I went up I walked typical practice, nothing unusual. I walked out toward the gate, sat against the fence. My back is facing the field where the lights are on, and I just happened to look back toward the field to kind of just to look at the players and coaches, and I realized that I could not see what was happening on the field. My vision was blurred, and I remember just thinking things. So I thought, how you stare at a light, and then you immediately look to try to focus on something you can't see until that bright spot goes away. It was like that, but it never went away. And the longer it stayed, the more concerned I got, and I was just starting to panic about what was happening to me because I thought I was going blind. I didn't know anything. This was the first episode I'd ever had. So imagine 9 years old, your vision is starting to go away, you can't see anything. How would you feel? And that's the world I was in. And my mom showed up about 25, 30 minutes later. And at that point, I was just complete hysteria. I mean, I'm panicking, my heart's pounding. I'm thinking the worst things that the possible. I'm thinking I'm going blind, and I can barely see my mom when she shows up. And I'm trying to, figure out where she is. I can hear her. I can see the car. I can barely walk to the car. And once I get into the car, I tell my mom that I can't see and that my vision went away. And my mom, she was, she thought it was because I had just gotten hit or something like that. She's like, oh, just rest your eyes and maybe it'll come back soon. So once I got in the car, we're just driving home, and I'm still under this thing like, what's going on with me, and still nervous, panicking. We get home, and as soon as we get to the house, I walk into the house, and it's about 25 minutes away from the field, and my vision starts to come back. But what immediately starts to happen is I start getting a pounding headache. And so this headache is it's something I've never experienced before as a 9-year-old. And I'm crying. And so my mom does what a mom, she tries to console me, tries to give me the best things possible, gave me some medication. She made some soup for me, tried to give me some food, put me to bed. Now, it didn't work because I have 5 brothers at the time, and they're all older brothers. And so they, you're trying to put me to bed at about 8:30. They were up making a lot of noise, pounding on stuff, running into the room, slamming the door, and they're just making it that much more, making it worse. Um, so then the only thing I can do is just kind of go into a cool, dark room. Uh, and I was trying to get some quiet, but it wasn't that quiet. And that lasted to about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I remember that happening, but during that 6-hour episode, I remember thinking to myself, if I can kill myself right now to get away from this pain, then that's what I'm willing to do. That's it. That was my trade-off in my mind, that if I got to kill myself to get rid of this, that's what I'm going to do. Now, I didn't go any further, didn't go downstairs and get anything, but that's where my mind was at, because it was the most excruciating pain I'd ever experienced. I couldn't, it wasn't no Advil or no Tylenol, no over-the-counter pain medication or headache medication. Nothing worked. Once that, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because I kept, if I would move, if I sat there in my bed, number one, I couldn't lay down. I had to sit up. And it felt like a bucket of water in my head. And the minute I would move this way just to make an adjustment, it would make this ocean move again. It would make the headache come back even more. And then if the longer I stayed still, it would settle down. And then if I moved again, it would start up again. And again, that was brutal. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, I remember I'd eventually fallen asleep. I remember waking up and just throwing up, vomiting constantly. And that went for about 2 or 3 hours to where I had nothing in my stomach. I was just dry heaving, just throwing up nothing. And then that was kind of when I started to feel a little better after I started throwing up. And then the next morning, I still had a bit of a headache, um, but I felt much better too. And I remember being up that night. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know if you guys remember HBO back in the day when they first, or Cinemax when they first they had adult stuff on about that time in the morning. And I had never experienced that in my life as a 9-year-old kid. So that was my first experience of just throwing on some TV that time in the morning. So, but that was my first one, and that was it was rough. It was rough.
So, and it's interesting your story about throwing up and starting to feel better, because
Yeah.
especially in kids, that is sometimes a common story that once they throw up, they start to recover.
Yeah.
Um, so at that point, and kind of through your high school years, how often did you get hit with one of these attacks?
Yeah. So that was the first one, and it seemed like I was getting them every other week, and I didn't know what would trigger them. I was living under a uh, constant fear because I didn't know what would happen. My mom didn't know. And when the first one happened, we didn't think twice about going and see a doctor to go see what was happening. So we assumed it was like a one-off. Okay, it was one time it happened, but then it kept happening. And I remember just being in school, and I was playing on this pole, um, the tetherball pole, and I was chasing my friend around the pole, and I slipped, and my legs did the split, and that triggered a migraine. My vision just started going crazy, and I ended up getting a migraine. Had to leave school doing that. So that was a trigger. I was sitting in my classroom, looking at the board in math class, and all of a sudden the vision goes out again. So these things started happening. These episodes started happening, and there was nothing that I could do. I didn't know when they would happen. That was the biggest fear of walking around not knowing what causes them, why they would come, how long they would last. I had some that would last 2 days. It wouldn't be the portion that where they had the pounding headache, but it would be like a residual headache after I had thrown up, and I feel better, but it wouldn't go away. It still would be like a downgrade to maybe a normal headache. And so now imagine I'm playing football at the time too. And so when we finally decided to seek help, my mom, after about the fourth one, she's like, okay, I'm gonna see what's going on because this is not normal. We went to the doctor and they didn't have any answers. And we didn't have the best doctors. We didn't make a lot of money, so we didn't go to like specialists. We went to our family doctor, and it was basically there's nothing that they had no answers for us. So then we continue to try to figure this out. No more answers. About a year later, after I've had probably 8 or 9 of them, we did start to notice that when I would play and exert any type of you know energy, that I would get them. I go to practice or in a game, I would get a migraine headache, and I didn't know how to tell anybody I was having a headache. I just didn't. I was afraid to tell my coaches or my teammates because we're playing a sport like football. It's a tough sport.
And these weren't triggered by getting hit on the head. These were just
No.
triggered by running hard and exerting yourself.
That's what. Yeah, it was just when I would practice, I would get them either after practice, or I would get them after I did I was in school. We had PE, and after PE, I would get them. So more times than not, I was getting these migraines after I would do some physical exercise. And so the doctor told my mom and my dad that I don't need to play football anymore. That's what he said. That was his answer to stopping these migraines was he can't play sports anymore.
Well, there's a lot of Broncos fans that are thankful that
Yeah.
they ignored that.
Yeah, I was like, nah, that's not an option. We got to find something better than that.
So, of all the symptoms that you get when you have a migraine attack, what's the one symptom that's the most bothersome? Is it the vision? Is
It's
it
the
the
headache.
pain?
It's the headache.
Yeah.
It's the pain. It's the pain that is. Who gets migraines in this room? Anybody? Okay. So that you understand, it's hard to describe to somebody because when I tell somebody I'm getting a migraine, the first thing I get is, oh, I get headaches too. I get those too. I'm like, no, you don't get migraines. You might get a normal headache. So you need to ratchet that up by 10. Then talk to me about having a headache. But there is a misconception about migraine headaches and what it is. And it's not just the pounding part, it's the condition, it's the vomiting, the nausea. Um, One time I came home, and this has only happened probably 4 or 5 times, where I had no clue how to put my coat on a hanger. I don't know I don't know what was going on with me, but my dad got mad at me because he told me to put my coat on a hanger, and he had picked me up from school because I had migraine, I had a migraine, and then they sent me home from school, and my dad picked me up. And when I got home, he said, "Put your coat on the hanger." And I remember I was like disoriented. I couldn't even put I saw the hanger. I had my coat, and I could not connect my coat with the hanger to put it on a hook. And my dad got upset with me because I couldn't do that. And so that's happened 4 or 5 times where I'm just completely disoriented. I don't understand what's going on. I have no coordination. But that was not a big part of what I went through. But I did experience that a few times.
Now, did any of your brothers end up having migraine?
No,
And none of your parents?
nope,
How about
nobody.
your kids?
That's what I fear. That's my biggest fear is that it's hereditary or somehow I can pass it down to them. And so far, there's been no sign of it. And I don't even know, and you can tell me more than anybody, if there's any way we can test for that to see if they have it.
Yeah, unfortunately, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And so my oldest son, he's 8 years old. I wish I had some video of him because he's pretty damn good. He's a good athlete. He's a good athlete. I don't know where he gets it from, to be honest with you. I have no idea where he gets all that athleticism from. But my wife says it's her, and it's not my wife. She says she ran track, and I said, okay, I need to go and investigate this. And I've done my research, and I have no evidence she ever ran track. There's no medals, there's no jerseys, there's nothing. And so I was like, all right, but I did find out where it came from. It was from my mom, who actually ran track when she was a little girl until she was in high school, and she was pretty good. So that's where he got his speed from, was my mom.
All right, now I want to pull up another video to show. But while I'm working
Okay.
on that, I'm gonna launch a grenade question at you,
Go
which
ahead.
is, You finished in the NFL in 2001,
Yeah.
and it took until 2017 to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
For those of us that followed your career, that seems ridiculous. So
I
tell
feel the
us-
same. I feel the
so-
same way you feel.
so, yeah,
You are
so tell
preaching
us-
to the choir,
yeah,
brother.
So tell us what took so long.
You know what took so long? I don't have an answer for that. It is very difficult to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is not a club that they just let anybody in. I retired in 2001. I'm not eligible to go in until 2006.
Go ahead.
2006. You got me crying right there. 2006. So I waited 11 years to get in. But I do thank God it happened this way because it gave me a greater appreciation for this jacket, the bust, the ring, and it's a hard process for the selectors. They got to choose only 5 candidates. Modern. I don't know if you guys know much about the process and how they select the players, but there's only 5 modern day players that they can choose from, and out of a pool of about 120 every year. And so every year it's just a numbers game. They got players that rightfully so, they're first round ballot players. So they go in. You got candidates who are maybe second, third year players. And then I was a special case because I only played 7 years. So I played 7 years. So the selection committee kind of penalized me for the playing a short career, in my view. That was kind of my opinion, that they had to make me wait me in any quicker. But I don't care about that. I got my jacket. I'm good. I'm forever going to be called a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and that's all I care about. So I'm good. Don't worry about me. I got this jacket.
All right. Now, assuming I didn't mess this up, this is the right video. This will discuss a little bit of the migraine attack that you had during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, 32.
I hope. So what did I do? Keep talking for a bit. I'll figure this out. Tell us about your kids.
What'd you say? Oh, my kids? Oh, man, I got to talk all day about them. I wish I had brought a photo of my children. Normally, I put it on here so you can see them. But I got an 8-year-old, I got a 6-year-old, and I got a 4-year-old. My daughter's 4, my 2 boys, 8 and 6. And when people say, what's your greatest accomplishment in life? Without hesitation, my kids. Like, I've never felt love or for something more than my children. And football's great. It's been awesome. It's been fun to play. The Super Bowl rings are nice, but they don't even stand. They can't even. I'd give all it back for my kids. And it's fun. It's not even. It's like I don't know if it's like a hobby. I always say that if you do what you love to do and you make it a hobby, then it's never work. And with my kids, that's how I feel about my children. Like it's not work. It's not like trying to be a dad. It's right now they're in Hawaii with their mom. All right. And I love West Virginia, but I'd much rather be in Maui sipping on a Mai Tai. But that's where they are. And we FaceTime every day, and I miss my babies. I ain't gonna lie to you. I miss them. They're fun. My oldest kid, his strengths, he's very competitive. I mean, super, and I gotta work on that with him. He's overly competitive. He doesn't know how to, which is good because he doesn't know how to, like, losing to him is like I just took his Lego set. He doesn't understand that part of it. He loves winning. For example, he ran in the Junior Olympics last 2 weeks ago. The Junior Olympics is every kid in America. You go through your region and you go to the Junior Olympics based off how you finish. He finished 6th in the 200 in the whole country, and he was 7th in the 100. And he was mad. He threw his medals in the trash. I'm like, are you nuts? Are you realize that you are the 6th fastest kid in the country, and the 7th in the 100, and then the 4x1 they were second. They should have won first. The other team cheated, but that's okay. You can't be bringing little 13-year-olds around with 8-year-olds, and that's what they did. But that's cool. But he has to learn how to. I don't want to ever try to teach him to accept losing, but you're gonna lose. That's just life. You have to find a way to deal with it, harness it, and use all that energy for next time, and to make sure that when you do, if you ever are in this opportunity or this position again, that you come through on it. And that's it. Just it's going to drive you for that. But he hasn't gotten to that yet. My 6-year-old's a daredevil. He breaks everything. He's got like 4 broken arms already. If you tell him to go to open that door, instead of walking up the stairs, he'll climb on the seats and just climb all the way up. He's gonna take the path of most resistance every single time. That's him.
All right.
And my baby girl.
Oh, sorry.
And my baby girl, that's that's daddy's girl. That is my girl, and she can't do nothing wrong. She can't do nothing wrong. I'm a sucker, and she got me right now. She got me. She got her daddy, boy. But that's my heart, man. She's like her mom. Like, she's super giving. And she'll do anything for you. She's only 4, so she'll go make your plate. She'll bring you a glass of water, just to anybody, stranger. So she's super, super like gracious and generous. And so she's got a huge heart already. And I love that about her. All right, now you can play this video.
All right, thanks. That's awesome.
Let's go.
Yeah, I threw all my running medals in the trash too.
I went to the trash can and got those medals out of that trash can. Did you hear what Rod just said? He couldn't see. Are you gonna question? You gonna question me? But that's the problem. Is when you try to explain to somebody that you can't see and that you have a migraine, that's the kind of response you get. That people don't think it's a real thing. And I've dealt with that. My family, my brothers, I've never talked to them about it. I never talked to my teammates about it. I never talked to my coaches about it. I was in high school playing in high school games with full-blown migraines with zero medication. I mean, nothing to damper that pounding. And because I was so afraid to tell my coaches what was going on, I had no answers for them. I mean, I play football, so you tell a coach, I got to leave the game because I have a headache. It just doesn't even sound right. And then your teammates look at you cross-eyed, like you got Rod talking about, yeah, supposedly he had a headache. So I had no choice but to play in that game. I had no choice but to play in those games that I played in. It wasn't even an option in Super Bowl 32. I left for the second quarter, and thank God there was medication that I had taken that allowed me to come back to at least play in the game. It didn't like knock it out 100%, but it made it to a level where it was tolerable, and that was all I asked for. I remember it happened. I remember the play like it was yesterday, and I don't know if you didn't even show the. Did we show the play?
Yeah.
Where it happened? Yeah. And my thought was, I knew when I got hit in the head, I knew it was something. I knew it was going to happen. And a few plays later, my vision started to go away. I'm like, God, not right now. This is the wrong time. And I remember just praying to God that don't be a migraine. And 2 plays later, my vision just started going out. And I have this disappointing. I'm disappointed because I'm about to let so many people down. I'm about to let my teammates down, the city of Denver, all the fans. I was letting myself down, but there was nothing I can do about it. So I had to leave the game. I couldn't stay in there because I couldn't see. There's no way I could play in the game. And fortunately, I left that game. It was the first part of the second quarter. I missed the entire second quarter. And then the halftime of Super Bowl games, they're so long. And I need about 45 minutes to an hour before my vision starts to come back. And nothing could shorten that span. Nothing has shortened that span. So we had these super long half times at Super Bowl, and that was great because by the time the the halftime ended, able to get back into the game and then help our team win that game. So it worked out, but I was disappointed. I was heartbroken that I had to leave that game for that second quarter. It was my fault too because I forgot. Normally I take this preventative medication 2 hours before the game, and I just completely forgot because the game was just. Normally I take it before we have our pregame meal, and I'll take it then. But it's a Super Bowl, so my mind is already on the game. I'm already thinking about the game. I can already visualize what's happening. I'm so excited about the game that I forgot to take it. And when we came back in from our pregame warmups, it dawned on me that I didn't take my medicine. And I was like, oh shoot! So I took it then, but it was too late because it didn't allow it to get in the bloodstream and work fast enough. So that's what happened. So it was my fault, but I made up for it. I think I made up for it.
Yeah, I think you did all right.
Yeah, I think I did okay.
What was the medication that you got for the
So
for the migraine at halftime?
I was taking naproxen. Naproxen was my preventative it was anti-inflammatory that I was using as a preventative, and that was discovered by trial and error. I guess my neurologist, her name was Judy Lane out of Denver. She's phenomenal. But when I was in Georgia, Georgia was the first time I gotten a formal diagnosis of my migraine. So I gone through from 9 years old till I went to college, and no one can tell me exactly what was happening with. Went to Georgia, and then they finally figured it out. Saw a neurologist there. They classified my migraines as exertional migraines, and they had given me they put me on anti-inflammatories, and it worked because it worked really well. It had a few breakthroughs, but it was really good. So I was taking naproxen for that. Once I got to Denver, I went to go see another professional there. Her name was Judy Lane, and she created something called, it was like a nasal spray. And in the nasal spray, the active ingredient was called dihydroergotamine. So DHE was the active ingredient that I was using. Once the migraine started, I would use that, and that would shorten the lifespan, and it would numb the headache portion of it. And that's what I took at halftime.
Great. So, other than the Super Bowl, were there other games either in college or in the NFL that you missed all or part of because of
Oh, yeah.
migraine attack?
Oh yeah, yeah. I missed a few in college. I missed a few in the pros. I think the biggest thing with that is it's the games, but like I missed a lot of life. I missed a lot of. I missed birthday parties. I missed important events. I mentioned we traveled a few times with my family, or when I was single, I would travel somewhere, and then I would have to miss the entire first half of the trip because I got this headache, so I have to stay in a hotel room. When I was little, we went to D.C. and went to go see the Capitol and all that stuff, and I didn't see any of that trip because the minute we got there, when we got on the bus and was heading to go see all the monuments and stuff, I got a migraine, so I had to stay back while everybody. And this was the high school, so that's been a part of my life is missing things and missing out on important things that I can't get back, and that's what it robs you of. It robs you of these moments that you can't get these moments back. I don't care who you are. I mean, it's like you just don't have an idea of when they're going to happen. They're just I don't know. They're devastating to be able to have that in your life and not knowing when those episodes are going to happen.
And I think that's a really important thing for people to hear that you were missing things that you really part of the stigma with migraine is a sense that people use it to get out of things they don't.
And I
want to
used it for
participate
that too. Don't get me
in.
wrong now.
but but I mean,
Oh my God, I got a high
yeah,
grade.
yeah. But
We got an exam today. What a pop quiz? Oh, my headache. Oh God, I got it. Oh, professor, I'll be back on Tuesday.
but
No, I never abused it. I never did. I never did.
yeah, but you missed a lot of. I mean, you missed a lot of things that you really wanted to participate in because of this.
Yeah.
So the ESPN special talked about your time at Georgia. Seemed to insinuate that your coaches in Georgia didn't really take kindly to your migraine problem.
Yeah.
Can you
That's what
talk
I'm saying.
can you talk a little bit about kind of how they treated you in particular, or things that you remember about? I mean, did they punish you? Did they ignore you? Did that affect your career at Georgia? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of. Let me just give you a little backstory to this, because even though the medical staff at Georgia knew I had migraines and they were on board, they understood it. My coach there at the time, his name was Ray Goff, and we didn't have a great relationship at all. And to add on to, he thought that I was, you know, that I don't know. He said I was faking a few. I had a few torn. I had like soft tissue issues at Georgia. Hamstrings, mainly hamstring issues. And his mind, he just couldn't understand how I was getting these injuries. Because I look fine. The doctors were telling, well, our trainers were telling him, yeah, he's okay. He can probably practice, but I wouldn't advise it. He would go against all of that, and he would try to put me out there to not prevent further injury. He's still throwing me out there. So we weren't seeing eye to eye. So when I had a migraine headache, his kind of idea that I wasn't tough and that I was always injured, and he didn't like that. He wanted tough people to play through play through pain, play through injuries. And even though I did do that, certain injuries I just wasn't willing to try to play through, because it didn't make any sense to make it worse when the remedy was to try to rest it up. So I would fight back at him, and and then I think his understanding of migraines too. He had no full understanding of a migraine headache. So when you add that in to a coach who already thought that I wasn't trying to practice hard and try to fake injuries, you had a person who just, they don't have empathy because they don't understand it. They think it's a regular headache, and he had no compassion. He had nothing at that time. So yeah, his thing was, he didn't care if I had a migraine. Didn't care. Wasn't gonna excuse me for practice. If I had, and I had I had a migraine in what we call our G Day game, is our spring game. And okay, I got a migraine, so I got to leave the field. We had this fight because he saw me walking off the field. He walks over to me and asked me, where am I going? I said, I have a migraine. I can't see right now, and I need to leave the field. He grabs my face mask, starts yanking, and there's people there, just like a whole group of people watching. And so we get in this little fight. And now I'm getting a migraine. He's tugging on my face mask. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, no empathy, none. And so, but things like that would happen with him. And so that's kind of the world I was living in. That's why I never really didn't want to tell anybody. You can't tell anybody, because I never felt that people understood. Even if you try to explain to them, they'll have some sarcastic remark or some idea that you're faking it. And I was like, man, there needs to be something that will allow someone to feel that exact pain and to see exactly what I'm seeing. And I've never been able to find that, so I can't properly tell somebody how, what's going on with me. And that's been that since there till today. Even with my wife, and I know she understands, but I don't think she fully understands when I get a migraine. And I tell her that you have to take the kids away from the house. I got to be home by myself. I got to go in a quiet, dark room. I've got to be able to relax. I can't hear anything because it heightens your senses. Everything, like I just feel like you have supernatural powers. I can smell you cooking a hot dog up 10 miles away. I can smell it. It's bizarre, but I can smell like 3 doors down if they're cooking something, or I wouldn't smell it any other day. But when I'm having a migraine, I can smell it. Lights, everything is so intense. Music, I mean, everything. So you have to go somewhere where all those things are just, they're not there. And once you take them away, that becomes the safe haven. That becomes where I'm then eventually let time go by and, able to come out of it. But I also started flying an airplane. I got my pilot's license in 2006, and that was a scary, scary incident I had. I ended up getting a migraine while I was flying my plane. So imagine that, where I can't see where the hell I'm going. That was not cool at all. But fortunately, I had enough fuel where I could just. I was in a holding pattern. I talked to the air traffic controller, told her what was happening. I actually didn't tell her what was happening because I have you get a medical clearance to fly a plane, and if I was had a migraine, they would have taken my license basically, and not they would have failed my medical. And so I'm thinking ahead, like, they're not taking my license. So I just told her that I needed to buy some time, and they held me in a pattern. Fortunately, the plane you can do on autopilot. You can put underneath the holding patterns. I did that for about an hour. As I stood up in 10,000 feet, going in circles for about an hour until I finally came out of it. Then I was able to land the plane with a headache, and then that was it. But I was always afraid of that happening. Coming in where I'm low altitude and I can't hold, or you can't vector off to somewhere. That's always a frightening thing. And it's frightening when you're driving a car down the street and your vision goes out. So I've lived my life in a constant state of fear of not knowing when these episodes are going to hit. And that's, to me, that's the biggest. I mean, it's like a criminal. It's like that's just not good to have that cloud over your head, to have to deal with that, and to have some answers and solutions to that. It's great. Now, it may not be in my lifetime, but hopefully my kids, if they have it in their kids' lifetime, they will find a solution to be able to knock this disease out and just get rid of it, because it's affecting millions of people on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, last question I have for you, and then we'll open it up to any questions. Is, despite going through all of this, you've had what anyone would say is a very successful professional and personal life.
Yeah.
So, can you give anybody who may be dealing with migraine, or dealing with family members with migraine, or just going to be a medical provider taking care of people with
Yeah.
migraine, just some ideas on what you've done personally to be able to overcome the obstacles that it created, not only the attacks themselves, but the stigma as well. Kind of what's your personal strategy been to say, okay, this knocks me down every now and then, but I'm going to keep picking myself back up and moving forward?
I mean, the personal strategy that I mean, I guess from a kid, I just believe in resiliency. You got to be able to just, get knocked down, get back up. You got to just be relentless in kind of your daily pursuit of whatever it is, and refuse to be a victim. Refuse to let something rob you of your life. And I knew I had migraines, but I wasn't gonna let that stop me from doing what I wanted to do. Like I told you, when I was 9 years old. They told me not to play football anymore, and I wasn't gonna let that happen. So I had to be defiant in a lot of ways, that I wasn't gonna let this stop me. You know, but I think the first thing that helped me was to get that formal diagnosis. Once I got that, and once I understood what was happening to me, why it was happening, and was able to get some professional help, that certainly brought it down to a manageable level, which at least gave me some things that, oh, if it comes, now I know what to do. I know it lasts about an hour, because it became almost like a routine in the way it hit, and the length and the duration of the visual things, the headaches. So I knew once I got, okay, I got 1 hour where I'm not going to be able to see. Let me go rest up. Once it comes back, I had the medicine that I've been taking, that really helped. So I knew that would numb it a little bit. So I was able to better as an adult, and so it didn't affect my life as much when I was an adult as it was a kid. But I just tell people, like, you gotta just live your life, man. You can't let anything stop you from living your life, and that's really my message to anybody, no matter what you're dealing with. You can't just, you got to be able to overcome a lot of obstacles, because they're gonna come, and that's just, you know playing football, and there's obstacles, there's disruptions in our workplace. There's a lot of things that I learned from sports that people don't care. When you watching those games on TV, and guys are playing, I don't think anybody's sitting at home saying, "Oh yeah, let's excuse him. He's got a bad ankle." You're saying, "My fantasy team needs you. You need to score some touchdowns. I don't care how you feel, TD." So once you understand that there's not a lot of people who have sympathy for your situation, and some people do, but you, in your mind, you can't think that way. You got to think no excuses. This world is a result-driven world. I've got to produce, and I've got to be able to just, whether it's this hurdle is this high or that high, I've got to find a way to, and that's just my mentality. And
Yeah. So it sounds like in addition to just trying to fight through it, you also had to come to a point where you had to allow yourself to have downtime and to to get through it. You had to know that I have to carve out an hour or 2 hours of my day
yeah,
if this happens to me, and it's okay, and it doesn't speak ill of me. And if people don't like it, that's their problem, not my problem. I mean, you
there's
had to
nothing
get
I can do.
yeah,
I mean,
you had,
you can't control that part,
right.
and I couldn't control that part. You know, there'll be some days at practice I'll get a migraine and I'll come off the field. They wouldn't send me home, but they'll send me into the training room and they'll let me just lay down in one of our meeting rooms where it's quiet, and then it'll give me about an hour, hour and a half, and then they want me back on the field. I was like, I'm cool with that, but I need at least an hour to allow this to happen.
All right. Well, I'm done with
Let's get some questions here.
All right. All right.
Their condition?
All right.
Oh,
So
my condition, the
yeah.
migraines. I would think so. You know, they have a very, at least they say they do a very extensive background check, medical on you. Um, but I think yeah, I know they did. They didn't ask me about it. No, I don't remember them asking me about it. They didn't ask me. Number one, the Broncos didn't ask me anything. I'd never even spoken to the Broncos before they drafted me. So that was a shocker when they drafted me in the 6th round because I thought the Cleveland Browns or the Cowboys would drafted me. And then the Broncos drafted me, and I was thinking, Denver? I did not want to go to Denver.
So, so what I'll repeat the question just because they're
Oh,
on
okay.
video and I want to be able to hear it. So, what do you got up there?
Thank you. No, no, no. Nobody laid me out. Laid me out. Who laid? What you mean laid me out?
He's a Cowboys
You
fan.
see this jacket I got on, man? You don't get laid out wearing this jacket. No, listen, no. Yes, I got caught a few times. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna answer the first one first. 3 guys that I can remember because I've been hit a few times, but I don't know who hit me. But it was Neil Smith, Hardy Nickerson, and Rodney Harrison. So Neil Smith played for the Chiefs, and he then came on to play with us, and we won our 2 Super Bowls with Neil Smith. But Hardy Nickerson was a linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he played with Derek Brooks, and he was the hitter. It wasn't Derek Brooks. And then, of course, Rodney Harrison. You guys know Rodney Harrison. He's on TV now. He played with the Patriots and the Chargers. But Rodney hit me. It's a little late. Rodney's notorious. He's known for the late hits. So he kind of caught me when my guard was down. But Neil Smith and Hardy Nickerson, knockouts. Yeah. This to me, this is the it's the greatest question because remember, they've, in my opinion, no, this is a fact. When I played, a concussion was described as you had to basically be knocked out. That's the way they treated concussions back then. Where if you were out and you're on the ground, they were identifying that as a concussion. Now what they're saying is if you see those spots, or if you get a little dazed, or if you just have a little moment where you just get rattled, then I'm no doctor, but this is my understanding. They're considering those as concussions, or you've been concussed. So they've identified those now as that. So the question is, when I was playing, how many of those did I have? I had a lot of those. I had a lot of those where you hit somebody, you start seeing spots and stars. They give you the salt. They a few plays later they put you back in. So if you ask me how many of those I had, I'd say in the hundreds, if not thousands of those. But I've only had 3 cases of where I was removed from a game because I was knocked out. So 3 now. So you tell me how many did I have? Did I have 3 or did I have thousands? I don't know. Chairman, please tell me because I'm still trying to figure this out.
I'm not getting into that fight.
Okay. No, but I mean, am I
think
wrong? Am I
I
wrong?
think he had thousands.
Huh?
I think he
Thousands?
had thousands.
So that's why I figure thousands. And it's the repetitive banging. It's the tapping of the head. It's not when you think someone's getting knocked out. But and I'm gonna answer this question because no one has even asked me that, but I know someone's asking me this: would you let your kids play? And the answer is yes. Now, 10 years ago, the answer would have been no. But because of what I've seen in the not only the equipment is getting better, they're teaching the kids their techniques are better now. I remember playing a game, and it was just about seeing how tough you can be. They put you in a bull in the ring. You'd have Oklahoma drills. You'd have all these drills was just to see how manly they can make you. And they removed those drills. They don't have them anymore. And so, you know how many times kids that were knocked out in those drills? Thousands. So they've done that. They removed the amount of times you can actually have pads on and hit. That's gone. So they've reduced the amount of tapping just by the thousands in what they've already implemented in Pop Warner, high school, college, and a pro game. So I'm comfortable now. And we're able to identify it a lot faster now. We can see it. They pull kids' helmet, they take the helmet game, and so they don't play until they pass the protocol on every level. That's why I'm comfortable with letting my kids play now.
There's a question up there.
When I was hitting, like if I had an episode after one, I didn't, yeah, and I thought I would. I never experienced. It didn't matter what happened. My headaches were always the same, whether I was just walking somewhere. I would have a trigger if I look at the sun could trigger it, or if I'm driving my car and a reflection comes off somebody's bumper or their mirror and it hits me in the eye, I can get a migraine. And they're always the same every time. There was no variation. Yeah. So the question is, you're asking me, is there any difference in the way? Oh, it's okay. So the question is kind of how should athletes go about telling the media or telling anybody if they have an injury? Here's the problem with this kind of it's a catch-22. As an athlete, you're trying to stay available and playing at all times. And players play through a lot of pain and injuries because the minute you leave the field, if somebody comes in and plays better than you, you're gone. So that's why players are real protective about saying if they're hurt, they'll play through it. And I blame a lot of the players on concussions because think about this. That's Super Bowl 32. If that game was played now, I couldn't come back in that game. They would have taken my helmet. So I would have had to lie to them and say, I'm fine, everything is good, I want my helmet back. So that's why players they'll lie and say that they're not concussed when they are, because they're not trying to leave that game. These are independent contractors. These are people who are trying to make money, and the minute they let somebody else come in and play, and that person takes their job, they've just taken their salary. So players ain't telling you they're hurt. They're gonna play through a lot of pain, a lot of injury, unless they got the big contract and a lot of guaranteed money. They're not gonna say they're hurt.
All right, let's go. Last question right here.
He said the question is, did throwing up always help alleviate the headache? For some reason, for me, yes. That's when I knew it was breaking. That's the relief, my headache, and it was systematic every time. It never deviated. It was the vision. The minute I started to see a pounding headache, and then once I started throwing up, the headache started to subside and get better. And it was the same thing every single time. Now the duration of those things were different. Headache can last 5 hours, sometimes 12 hours, sometimes 18 hours, and then I'll start throwing up. But it was typically the same order every time.
I just want to say thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I salute you.
And it is a rebuilding year at WVU. So if you have any eligibility left, you look like you could still score a few touchdowns. So
No, my friend. I am okay sitting here watching all you fine people today.
Thank you all very much for coming.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah, right on. Thank you. Buffalo.
Thanks.